Hey guys, it's Bryony. So I'm so pleased that I can finally make this video. I finally have a diagnosis as to why my periods are so painful. So before I tell you what it is, I just want to give a little bit of backstory. So I've had painful periods now since I was 15 and I'm 20, so that's 5 years. Over that period of time, I've been to various doctors, to the gynecologist, and just been told over and over again that it was nothing and there was nothing wrong and yada yada yada. I'd had scans, they came back normal, but I knew that something really wasn't right. So I really had to push to go and see somebody. And it was a few months ago that I realised I needed to get this sorted, and I went back to the GP and he referred me for an ultrasound scan, which I had done and came back normal. That was an external ultrasound. And then he referred me to a gynecologist, which is what I was waiting for when last month, because I hadn't had the referral yet because they were so busy they could only put me on the waiting list. So last month on the 26th, I ended up in such bad period pain and bowel pain that I had to go to hospital and spend the night there because they were concerned because they were concerned that I had a twisted ovary or something else that was really wrong. And in the end, they couldn't find anything and I was sent home. But it made me realise I had to do something. I couldn't wait around any longer. So I decided to go and see a private gynecologist. And in particular, I had had one recommended to me by my Lyme specialist, who she said was really good because and it is a he, which I didn't mind. He was familiar a little bit more with Lyme disease than other doctors might be. So he kind of would understand how I couldn't take hormones and stuff. And she really liked him from other patients that had gone to see him. So I decided I would give it a shot and go and see this guy. And boy, am I pleased that I did. So yesterday I went to see this man. He spoke to me for about 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes of telling him my symptoms and what I'd been through, he was like, okay, I'm pretty sure it's going to be either this or this. And he wanted to do an ultrasound scan on me. So he had a massive office, and he had an ultrasound machine in his office as well. So we went over and did it straight away. And he did a transvaginal ultrasound, which is what I've been trying to get people to do for ages, and they never have because I'm not sexually active. They seem to be so terribly concerned about this. But that's basically when they put the probe inside your vagina rather than just doing it on your belly. And this gives a much better image of what might be going on. It gives a much better indication of if anything is wrong that they can see. And in this case, they could see what it was. So I have adenomyosis. When I first went in, I thought it was going to be like endo or something, endometriosis, but it turns out that from when he did the ultrasound, was looking around, he couldn't see any evidence of endometriosis, but he could see evidence of adenomyosis. So adenomyosis is similar to endometriosis, but it is a different condition. With endometriosis, the lining of your uterus, your endometrium, starts growing outside your uterus, like on your fallopian tubes, on the uterus itself, on your bowel, on your ovaries. It can even spread further up your body, but it usually happens in your pelvic region. But with adenomyosis, the lining of endometrium goes into the muscle of the uterus itself rather than on the outside, and that makes the uterus basically look a bit bulky. So I have some ultrasound pictures here of my uterus. There's quite a few because some of them are repeated. But he basically looked at my uterus, at my ovaries, and he couldn't see anything in around my bowel or any fluid outside, which is a good indication because that means it doesn't look like I have endometriosis. Can't rule it out, but it's a good sign for it. But yeah, so you can kind of see, and I'll do a close-up of these as well. My uterus is here, and right here there is about a 2 centimeter fibroid, which he's not worried about. He said about 50% of women have fibroids, and one this small wouldn't cause any problems, and that there's no others either. So this on its own is not something to worry about. That is my right ovary, and my right ovary has what does he call it? A functional cyst on it, which I've had before. They're basically just when you ovulate, sometimes the sac fills with fluid. If the egg isn't released, or if it's released and the sac closes, it can build up with fluid. So that's when you get a functional cyst. Very common. They go away on their own. Or at least in me, they always have anyway. And then there's a picture of my endometrium. I can't really tell any of the stuff. The only thing I do know is I have a retroverted uterus, so my uterus actually tilts backwards rather than tilting forward, which is interesting because I would have thought if my uterus tilted backwards, I'd get period pain in my back rather than my front, but I always get it in my front, I never get it in my back, so that was intriguing to know, but that shouldn't affect pregnancy or anything, which is good. So as far as adenomyosis goes with affecting fertility and stuff. He didn't really talk about this, but I've done some research afterwards, and there isn't really much research that's been done on it. Because adenomyosis is often combined with endometriosis, they haven't really done any studies in women that only have adenomyosis, and it's also very difficult to diagnose. You only really know that someone has it after you've done a hysterectomy and can actually look at the uterus itself. But obviously I don't want to have a hysterectomy done. The only thing I've been able to find is that it might make me a little bit more likely to have a miscarriage, but as far as actually stopping pregnancy from occurring, it shouldn't interfere with that, because unlike with endometriosis, which can cause scarring and blocking the tubes and stuff, it doesn't do any of that. It's actually in my muscle, so I've still got a normal lining of the endometrium. There's nothing blocking my tubes or anything like that, so that's a good start. So as well as my diagnosis, he was also actually able to give me a few suggestions of things that could help. So because of my Lyme disease, he fortunately said he didn't want to start with hormones because that could obviously be very bad for me. So he's put me on a course of, and I have the stuff here, mefenamic acid and something I can never pronounce the name of, tranexamic acid. So basically I have to take, I have to take this mefenamic acid 3 times a day. I think the instructions are exactly how many I have to take on the back of the box. But I have to take the mefenamic acid for a week before my period is due, and then for the first 3 days of my period as well. And I have to take the tranexamic acid from the first day of my period. This is to help with the menstrual cramps, to try and stop the prostaglandins, and this is to help with the blood flow. He wants to try and reduce my blood flow because that could help with like the pain and stuff. So I'm really pleased I have something that I can actually do for this month, and he's told me to give this a go for 3 months and see if it makes any difference, and if it does, that's great. They don't need to do anything else because it's not severe enough to need surgery or anything. There was nothing in there that would cause him worry, which is such a relief to me. I mean, I knew something was wrong, so even though they can't cure this and it is like a lifelong thing and it may possibly end with me having to have a hysterectomy down the line, it is something that can be managed and that isn't like urgently need to be dealt with surgery wise, which is always a plus. If that doesn't work, he did recommend the Mirena. He did say to me that I shouldn't take the pill because that would be really bad for my Lyme, but the Mirena is an option that he would next consider, although I would really have to consider it to have a Mirena because I really don't want to be honest. I know a few people have had them, and some have had great experience with it, and others I know have had some really bad ones with it. So I think before I'd consider a Mirena, I'd probably want to have had at least 1 child. But yeah, everyone's individual. That would just be my preference. The other thing he said that they can do is they can effectively suppress my uterus by putting me into like essentially an early menopause for about 6 months to see if that would help everything to settle down. But he said he really wouldn't want to do that because that would also affect my bone density when my body is trying to build that up, and especially with the Lyme and stuff, they'd want to be really careful before doing that. But hopefully with these lovely medicines, I will be able to actually control it this month, and keeping my fingers crossed for that. But I'm just so pleased that I finally actually have a diagnosis and something I can work with from now. And I have to say, I believe in like natural medicine and the body's ability to heal its own self. So now that I know what it is, I think I have a better idea of like how I could progress forwards in the future with maybe trying some natural remedies to help my uterus get back to its functioning self without too much pain. So now that I know where I stand, I'm in the best position to do that. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and thank you to all of you who've been following me for like the last few years while I've been trying to get this, who've been really supportive. If you have painful periods and you're fighting to see someone, keep going and don't give up, because you know your body better than anyone, and if you know something's wrong, something is probably wrong, and it's a lot easier and a lot more of a relief when you actually know what it is. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Don't forget you can get cough pads and menstrual cups from my website up here, Precious Stars, and let me know if you have any video suggestions for what you'd like to see in the coming weeks. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.